I'm going to talk about Nutripuncture. Nutripuncture is a healing modality developed by a medical doctor, Dr. Verret from France. The story of this doctor is that he pretty early in his medical career realized that he doesn't really help that much his patients. So he went to China, studied Chinese medicine, and started to practice Chinese medicine, acupuncture, and so on. In France, in the late 30s, early 40s, there was a scientist called Lachowky. What Lachowky did, he made rings from metals like copper, magnesium, zinc, and so forth. And when he put them around plants, some type of plants, actually geranium, this plant is known to have the feature or the characteristic that if you inject bacteria called tuberculosis tufescens, the plant will develop cancer. What he observed that when you put this ring around the plant and inject the bacteria, the plant never developed cancer. Same happened when you injected tiny amounts of these elements into the plant, couldn't create cancer. Dr. Verret realized immediately that what you're dealing is with some kind of energy phenomena, because obviously Chinese medicine talks about energy and addresses the energy flow in our body, which is just like the nervous system. The meridians in Chinese medicine are actually something that relate to the nervous system, and those are basically channels that information moves in the body. So he got the idea to use metal elements, again, like zinc, magnesium, copper, and so on, to affect the body energy, because obviously, as a doctor that also practiced Chinese medicine, he was aware that energy is the essence of all, and we cover it a little bit later. Those of you that don't know about it, everything that you see, the manifestation in your body, physiologically, chemically, the function of the DNA is really the end results of energetic processes in the body. Between all the organs, the brain, and every cell in your body is connected in many, many ways. So what Dr. Verret did, he was the son of Lachowky, in a medical university in Paris, he developed nutris, or there are very minute amounts of those metals in different combination, and he figured out which combination will open different meridians, the energy of different meridians, just like what you do with acupuncture, and organs. So those pills are mixed in sugar. The amount of these elements is very minute. In fact, if you eat 1,000 pills, which you never do, you won't get overdose of copper, magnesium, zinc, or what have you, because the effect is energetically. And when you chew those tablets, which are sugar-based, and they're very small, you open different meridians in your body. So you have actually phenomena where by providing the body what they call in Europe oligoelements, you can actually open energy flow, open information channel in the body. So instead of doing acupuncture, which is great, but maybe a little uncomfortable, certainly it's not really for kids, here you have something that you chew. Kids love it because it's sweet, and it works beautifully. The other aspect of Nutripuncture is really based on scientific research, because what we call oligoelement, or the element in nature, whether copper, zinc, magnesium, and many others, are actually acting in the body as catalyzer. And there's a lot of scientific work that corroborated. For example, when they did cell culture and put minute amounts of these oligoelements that he's using in the pills, they actually found out that the production of enzymes in the cell culture grows 1,000,000 times. Those oligoelements in the body, trace minerals you can call them, act the body as catalyzer. So in a very minute amount, they support many, many functions and enhance many functions. Incidentally, in Europe, any pharmacy, any health food store, they sell oligoelements because they know, for example, that oligoelements or trace elements of copper, gold, and silver, very good in infection. So they use it a lot. I use a line of products from Germany, have big lines of oligoelement that can be used for many to support the body for many conditions. Nutripuncture is basically very similar to acupuncture in many ways, even though it's administered differently. However, even though it's based on all the principles and elements of traditional Chinese medicine, it's actually also connected to cellular research, biological research, and the effect of oligoelements on the body, which proven by Western science, by people like Barbara McClintock. You see, since everything in your body is energy, the environment affects the DNA, which is the conductor of all the function of the body. So if you support the DNA and those oligoelements actually affect direct the DNA, you can enhance function of the body and improve the function of the DNA. The DNA is changeable, which means that the DNA, for example, if your DNA you have genes of illness, of disease, of cancer, or what have you, you actually, by working energetically on the DNA, which means with good nutrition, oligoelement, stress management, emotional management, and so forth and so on, and eliminating toxin in the environment in your food, like heavy metals, preservative, GMO, you can actually improve your DNA. And then, even though, for example, your family history, or you were told that genetically you're prone to this disease, this cancer, or that heart disease, and so on, because all your ancestors died at 40 from heart attack, the truth is that you can modulate the energy of your body and take other actions that we take in holistic medicine to change your DNA to the point that you'll never experience what your ancestors experienced, that we were told by genetic testing that you have high risk. So we use Nutripuncture pills by chewing, and in addition to the 38 different nutris, some of them are gender specific. For example, we have nutris for the prostate and the uterus. For those who know Chinese medicine, triple warmer and master heart for male and female. So some of them are gender specific. And in addition to that, you have the yin yang, which basically are balancing the cellular energy of the cells. So we use the Nutripuncture in two ways. One way is to just treat any acute condition or chronic condition. And in this modality, which is called associative, we chew the yin and yang first, and then we take the nutri that are appropriate for the specific condition, because different organs and different meridians are connected to different illnesses or different problems in our health. You take the yin yang, and then you take the appropriate nutri. You just chew them one after the other. And what's interesting is that when you give it to patient, with 99% of cases, immediately see some kind of relief, whether it's pain, whether how they say the name, how they feel, how they walk, they notice significant difference, and sometimes it's quite remarkable. And that's happened especially in children. In most cases, you see literally within seconds, the child that was sick, doesn't feel good, had pain, discomfort, irritability, immediately change within seconds after taking the Nutripuncture, chewing the tablets. When you're talking about healing, healing is not about, or getting well from illness, it's not about being perfect, but your body has to correct or restore enough communication that it can jumpstart, I call it, or create a chain reaction that the symptom that you're suffering from will disappear, and you'll be in symptom-free, or the condition will be resolved. So Nutripuncture helps you energetically to go in this direction by restoring communication. If you have acute condition, it's obvious. We use the Nutripuncture obviously for acute condition. When you restore energy in acute condition, whether it's flu, ear infection, bronchitis, you help the body heal faster, and sometimes quite dramatically. Depends what is the energetic state, because without exception, when you get sick, it's usually after a traumatic event like surgery or flying or emotional upset or not getting enough sleep or combination of this type of stresses. And with Nutripuncture, you can restore the energy, and then the healing will be much faster. In cases of chronic condition, you can use this modality, associative modality, where you take the yin-yang and whatever nutri you need, and just for your information, you repeat every 5 nutri that you chew, you repeat the yin-yang. So it's yin-yang and the appropriate Nutripuncture tablets. And in cases of chronic condition, it can reduce the frequency. For example, I had a patient that had very severe chronic dizziness. The Nutripuncture helped a lot to reduce the frequency of the dizziness, or, for example, a patient that had atrial tachycardia, the heart is beating too fast. When I gave her the Nutripuncture for that issue, when she had an event, it stopped much faster and less frequently and less severely when it happened. So you can help the energy of the body to reduce complication or reduce frequency of symptoms in health problem. And again, since the Nutripuncture is totally harmless, there's really no contraindication. It would not contradict any other therapy, whether homeopathy, chiropractic, or any possible alternative or conventional healing modality. Obviously, there is no reason not to use it if you have access to it. So that's associative, where you can treat chronic and acute condition. In addition to that, you can actually increase your ability to function. For example, it can reduce stress, either preventatively. Let's say you get stressed because somebody upset you, or you're going to meet somebody that upsets you and you get stressed. You take the stress sequence and you can handle the situation much better. If you go to do an exam or important meeting, you focusing on concentration will improve considerably. So you can use it also preventatively. For example, one of the things that stresses people and reduces their resistance to illness due to the energetic weakness is flying. Just a note, because I've seen several people get sick. Never ever, when you fly, go to this total body X-ray machine. That's actually adds on to the energetic stress on your body. Always do the hand checkout, which is basically, I call it free massage by you, dear government. Flying is very stressful for several reasons. First, because you're in very high altitude, there's low radiation. Then you have pressurization, which affects the energy of your body. And then you have the change of location energetically that also stresses your body, because your body usually is adapted to the local energy. If you go to a new type of energy, it takes the body time to adjust, and that's stressful. And it's very often people get sick after flying or get all kind of health problem. So in Nutripuncture, we have nutri for what we call jet lag, and the support, in this case, the uterus or the prostate in men, the thalamus, and the thyroid. So you can actually reduce the risk and reduce the tiredness or stress in your body and help prevent illness that comes out from flying. So that's just an example. So you can use it specifically. You can actually use it to improve your voice, singing, sport performance, and so on. Now, the other modality that you have in Nutripuncture, which is very, very important one and very useful one, it's called sequential modality, sequential Nutripuncture. What is sequential Nutripuncture? Instead of taking the yin-yang and the appropriate nutris, you take 10, usually most times 10 nutris. This modality serves several purposes. An important one is treating all the emotional trauma as well as physical trauma. Because anytime you have emotional trauma, for example, if somebody dies on you, and talking about childhood and any time in your life, your parents divorced, you're abandoned, and so on, it creates an energetic block. A way to explain an energetic block is the following. What happens to your body normally, you have the brain, the nervous system, you have nerves all over your body everywhere that go and send the impulses, basically monitoring your body. It goes to your lower brain. Your lower brain analyzes what's going on, and then there is a system, nerve system, that goes from the brain to the periphery, and it gives the appropriate stimulation to regulate, correct whatever is going on. So if those two systems work perfectly, then you'll never get sick, and you probably never age and live hundreds of years. Obviously, this doesn't happen because of environmental thing, which I explained in my other videos, nutrition, heavy metals, Wi-Fi, electromagnetic pollution, chemical pollution, bad food, etc., etc. So what happens is that when the function is not optimal, your body slowly start to age, to degenerate, and eventually you develop illness. Now, this communication is affected also by trauma. Now, just adding on, according to Chinese medicine, you have the famous meridian on the surface of your body or right under the skin, or usually that actually also help move around information. So your body is a very complex system of communication through the nerves, through the meridians, and actually many other ways which I won't get into. And the energetic function actually keeps your body going perfectly if it's perfect. Now, if you have acute stress or emotional trauma, past or present, that immediately blocks the communications. The good news is that your body has many, many ways to bypass the block and provide information, exchange information in a way that you won't develop illness. However, if you have a lot of emotional stress or emotional trauma and all the environmental things that cause illness, eventually, at a certain point, your body loses enough communication ways to communicate that you do develop illness. And it could be emotional, mental, physical, or both to different degrees, depends on your predisposition. Each of us have different predisposition to develop illness in different areas of the body and different emotional problem or psychiatric problems in extreme cases. This blockage is actually the so-called foundation of illness. Yes, of course, if you have been smoking and you've been eating junk food and GMO food and using the microwave and putting the cell phone to your head, or you're around very strong Wi-Fi transmission, sure, you are going to develop illness. But other handicap, which you're usually not aware of, is all the traumas you have in your life. And be aware that the traumas start in utero, in the womb. Unless your mother was in bliss for 9 months, which is very unlikely, you start to develop potential energetic blockages or weaknesses in utero. Sequential Nutripuncture, you can address specific blockages from specific issues. The problem that you have in your life developing really start with those blockages. So what you do in Nutripuncture, you address the specific blockages. Just give simple example. Let's say that your parents divorce. That create energetic block that affects you physically and emotionally. Way to look at it, the communication between the body and your brain have been severed to a certain extent. Now, with Nutripuncture, sequential Nutripuncture, you can take a specific order of nutri that will, just like a key, will open that lock. And you take 5 nutris, and those affect you or restore your body. And then you can test the patient with pulse or with muscle testing. If the patient doesn't need that, then your strength or the pulse will be okay. But if the strength of the muscle go down after the first 5, means there is miscommunication. So you do the next 5 in a very specific order, and then you test the patient, and muscle testing is very, very strong. But not only that, you have the patient say the name, walk, and do some other things, and you can see big difference. Most times the patient himself or herself can feel the big difference, actually shift that is quite amazing. And by taking those sequences for specific trauma, you can relieve a lot of blockages that affecting your health emotionally and mentally. And what's happening is that it's much easier to heal from illnesses if you develop illness. Now, let's say you haven't a very good life, or you haven't, or you're in an age, or you haven't developed aging or illness. By doing those sequences for the trauma that you have, you can prevent disease, and actually you'll never have problems, or you never know the problem you would have otherwise. I'll give you an example. There's no accidents. People develop Alzheimer or Parkinson or senility for a reason. Usually the main problem is relationship with the parents, and that can be addressed with Nutripuncture. Of course, eating bad nutrition, all the other things affect you too, But the underlying start, in most cases, in childhood. So if you have somebody with senility or Alzheimer, there are ways which I won't get into with chelation nutrition to help them and probably even cure them. However, if you do the Nutripuncture, you actually can see results much faster. I just remember it's interesting because for Parkinson, this has to do with relationship with parents. So there's a sequence for Parkinson. And we are shown by Dr. Verret in one of the courses. He videos the patient before and after taking the Nutri. So this man from Europe, apparently pretty famous there, was a great pianist. And as he aged, he developed Parkinson. When he tried to play, it really sounded terrible and miserable. He gave him the Nutri sequence for Parkinson, and instantaneously, the guy played beautifully. It was quite amazing. And this just reconnecting the blockages. This is just example. So it's very, very useful because it helps prevent illness, and it also can help the healing of an illness, give you much better chances and accelerate healing. So that's very, very useful. In addition to that, you can use the sequential not only for emotional trauma or physical trauma. For example, as far as physical trauma is concerned, if you take the sequence for trauma after surgery, dental work, a fracture, or any injury, you heal much, much faster. I give it to all my patients after any injury or elective surgery or dental work and so forth. And of course, if you have old trauma, which most people have, whether surgery or car accident, it's very important for most people to take it anyway. And then once they take it, even for the, because what you have to understand, and people don't realize that, when you have traumatic event like surgery, local anesthesia, general anesthesia, dental work, in addition to flying, all the things I mentioned, so any physical injury, car accident, even if you didn't break any bone, it creates energetic block. So when you take Nutripuncture, you actually speed up the healing. But what you need to know that after any trauma, the energetic block does not resolve. The energetic block not only prolongs the healing process, but it also predisposes you for getting sicker or getting sick after physical traumas that I mentioned. So I make sure all my patients take it. And then once they took it for a month, then they have it at home. If should any trauma happen, they take it immediately. And people heal much, much faster. The sequential, as I was saying, not only for emotional trauma and physical trauma, but you can take, for example, specific areas of the body, whether it's your spine, organs, and there are sometimes several nutri for specific problems with your colon or prostate and so forth. For example, one person was a mailman and he was very healthy, but he had specific problem with his ankle, which had pain. So I found out the correct nutri, gave him the sequence of the problem, and the pain in his ankle disappeared. And he was walking miles every day with his mail bag. Or another example that I had, one of many, this lady was pregnant and she had perfect pregnancy. By the way, thanks to Nutripuncture, because she had a hard time getting pregnant. She had a couple of miscarriages, but she carried the pregnancy very well with the help of Nutripuncture. And 6 weeks before expected delivery, she started to swell up, and they found out she had too much amniotic fluid, and she can barely walk, hard to breathe. And worst of all, she expected home delivery. Now she was high risk, was going to go to the hospital. So we had the idea, we happened to have sequence for amniotic fluid. We gave her the sequence, and within 24 hours, the swelling went away and she was fine. She had perfect delivery at home. So those are just a few examples. So it's very, very useful because what you have to understand that obviously sometimes when you're sick or you have cancer or whatever, you do this wonderful nutrition, juicing, improve your lifestyle, stop eating GMO, stop using microwave, etc., etc. In some cases, you can be healed even when not expected. But when you don't heal, in my view, any illness or any diagnosis connected to emotions, and often is from the past that you may not even realize or remember or give any importance. When you don't get well from severe condition, it's because you haven't handled the past trauma. And until you handle it, you hit a wall. You may do obviously better if you do holistic than conventional medicine in most cases, but you still doesn't happen. And then you're all upset, I did all these good things, nothing happened. The reason is, I believe in all cases, that you didn't address energetic block from all your life trauma. Nutripuncture allows you to take care of it. And I've seen amazing thing myself and amazing cases that shown to us, people getting well when absolutely not expected. Again, it's not a magic cure-all because the magic is in your body. You just have to clear enough blockages for the body to do its job, because ultimately it's not the Nutripuncture heal the body, it just facilitated, but improving communication. So I find it one of the most amazing in a way, but most useful healing modalities because it's harmless, because really there's no contraindication. I had several patients that have very, very traumatic childhood, severe, horrendous sexual abuse, and beyond that, which I don't want to get into. And those people had very rough life. And usually the patients that come to me are very open-minded and choose not to take drugs. So several of these patients had very, very good counseling, and which helped them, of course, but didn't do it. They still were living in hell. And just doing Nutripuncture sequential programs literally changed their life. One of the ladies told me, she was in late 50s, that for the first time in her life, she's not in hell. Because it shifted, it connected enough energy to function much better emotionally. And obviously, the physical positive effect, if you have a problem, or preventively, it's obvious too. Nutripuncture is a modality that's extremely, extremely effective, and people don't even have to work on themselves, so to speak. However, I tell all my patients, the good news, and I highly recommend that all of you check it out, there's nothing you can do with anything outside of you cannot do yourself. And I won't get into details because it's all on my website on the Ultimate Healing Tool, and video I put on the main homepage on self-healing is that if you do processes that I recommend, which are very simple, you can heal any emotional trauma if you do it exactly as directed. Of course, if you do Nutripuncture, it can facilitate it enormously. So I tell my patient, if you cannot do it, you cannot, for whatever reason, do Nutripuncture, then you can still do the other things. That's give you a general idea about Nutripuncture. Linda, do you have any comments or questions?
Well, it sounds like it is a modality that can do subconscious healing. Is that correct?
Absolutely. You don't have to work proactively with your emotion, with like consciousness tool or whatever you're doing or meditation. Just doing that will make you more aware, and it will remove subconscious blockages.
Is there a Nutripuncture for past lives?
You know, that's a good question. I don't believe so, but I wouldn't be surprised if it is. However, the way I look at it is, you see, everything you experience in this lifetime is a result of, on some level, of a past lifetime. So if you're mitigating what's happening now, you're automatically solving issues from a past lifetime. So if you believe in past lifetime, for example, let's say that you have an accident or heart disease or whatever, that connected to some past life trauma or issues, when you heal it now, you're automatically healing your past lifetime.
Okay, so you're healing the generational part of it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Okay. Let me give you another example. In this lifetime, so let's say that you have, which unfortunately is pretty common, severe sexual trauma. It's very, very disturbing to the body. When you take the, let's say, the sexual trauma sequence, it helps you release the whole thing, which means it doesn't affect you anymore, and then it's like it didn't happen. So it doesn't matter that it happened, the past really does not exist, so you basically erase the past because it doesn't affect you anymore. So the only thing that exists is this moment anyway. So you're erasing the past, and then automatically it's erasing past life, I believe. So for example, let's say if you abuse somebody the same way in past lifetime, if you heal yourself now and you release all judgment, you heal the past life automatically. That's what I look at it. Nutripuncture improves your vitality, improves the communication in your body. And as I said before, you can see it here on the slide, that being healthy doesn't imply that you're perfect or you need to be perfect. You just have to, the balance of vitality or energy function of your body has to go beyond certain point, which is unique for everybody. Then you just don't experience illness, and the disease just disappeared. What you have to understand with Nutripuncture, because it affects you physically and emotionally, it's actually treated the whole person. So for example, if you take the stress sequence, which I mentioned, you immediately feel better, more relaxed, more peaceful. When I find a patient come and they're really, really stressed, I give them the stress sequence immediately, sometimes before doing anything else. I immediately feel better, more relaxed, more peaceful, and obviously they retain much better. So what I do with patients that have, for example, acute condition, I always give them the stress sequence and they note the change. And then if they have acute condition or something that issue that needs treatment, I give them, in addition to the stress program in this associative form, I also add on the issue that they have. So for example, if they have bronchitis, I give them the stress and the bronchitis nutris. And obviously, when you unstress the person, they respond better to anything else. So I always recommend that people do the stress. And once the acute condition is resolved, they can use it as needed. In Nutripuncture, basically, you give the body trace elements that are essential to the body, calcium, magnesium, zinc, and so forth. And they balancing your nervous system, your hormonal system, and the immune system, which are obviously all connected. And by doing that, you reduce inflammation, reduce the processes that causing you disease. What you're doing in Nutripuncture, you incorporate biochemistry and molecular biology, and that has been confirmed not only by Lachowky, but Prize Nobel winner Barbara McClintock. It is also based on the study of acupuncture, vital currents that describe in acupuncture, and relationship with the 5 elements that people that are familiar with Chinese medicine, like water, fire, and so forth. It connects to the different systems in our body, to the seasons, to the different organs that also connected to the season. Each season, there is different organs that are affected by the season. Like in the winter, it will be kidneys and bladder. So you can actually take nutri during the change of season, and what it does, it reduces the risk that you get, some people get more sick in the winter, some people more in the summer. So that actually can help your body handle the change much better and improve your general health. The Nutripuncture was recognized by the University of Beijing in 2007. So this slide, if you're watching this video, will show you the experiments of Lachowky. You can actually look it up online. There's more explanation because obviously Lachowky was very, very cognizant of the energetic effect or the energetic that actually was responsible to this phenomena. He was in many ways ahead of his time. And usually people like that are not fully understood anyway. But they did get attention because they show phenomena that under conventional science doesn't have any explanation. So as you can see, the nutri come in little boxes. You just take each pill from the box. So this is a slide in Barbara McClintock. You can freeze the picture and look at it. One of the things that happened in Nutripuncture, it targets information to specific areas and you have faster transmission. You have selective action, specific meridians and organs in your body. The way Dr. Verret described it is the Nutripuncture addresses vital currents, basically the communications, flow of information. All the organic dysfunction, all the illnesses in your body actually are the results of energetic blockages, not just bad luck that you get cancer or things that happen haphazardly. The nervous system in your meridian, it's like an information system. And the information system, if it works efficiently, your body literally can make up for everything.